Our game review this week is Tekhenu, Obelisk of the Sun. It is a 2020 release coming out next week. Its designers are Danielle Teschini and David Turksey. The artists are Jakub Facinowski, Michael Dulaj, and Zbigniew Umgetler. And it is put out by Board and Dice. I'm guessing that, I'm guessing I totally butchered those artists' names. My apologies in advance. So this is a game that is set in ancient Egypt. There is a beautiful, tall obelisk in the center of the board, and it plays with a mechanic that we like to call sun and shade. So as the sun moves around the obelisk, different parts are in sun and different parts are in shade, and that significantly changes some of your decision making in the game. Who wants to go first? Who wants to talk about the basics of what the game is?
Trey, I'll let you go first.
Done.
Okay. I think we would best describe this as a dice drafting game, right?
I think so.
Where kind of in the same, similar, very similar to TREY in terms of how you pull dice. Like on your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to select a die and you're going to take an action. And then the richness of the game is what do you do with that die? So I think the framing of this game thematically is that we are probably like Egyptian nobles representing certain aspects of society, and we're kind of like building our own little portion of this Egyptian society. And when we take a die, we are either taking that die in order to get a certain amount of resources of a specific type. There's a number of different kinds of resources in this game, which is why Elder likes it so much. Or the other thing that you can do when you take a die is you can take a god action. So where you pull from the obelisk kind of determines what god action you can take. And then as Tom kind of suggested before, maybe the thing that's most unique about this game is that as the game progresses and is kind of representing the movement of the sun, these dice fall into an area of sunlight or shade or kind of like half light, which determines that when you take the die, is the die blessed or is it corrupted? And then you kind of have to like balance out the kind of spirituality of your dice, or else there are penalties that affect the game.
Yeah, which I found quite interesting. So there are 6 sectors around this obelisk, and each sector represents a different god. One god is concerned with building pillars in the grand temple area, and that's the main thing that they do. Another god is building buildings around the temple area and increasing population, right? Another god is concerned entirely with the happiness of that population, which does not fit the Egyptian theme at all, but we're going to go with it.
Exactly.
There's another god that is about the improvement of society, and that is represented by cards that exist down at the bottom of the board. Some of which are technology cards, which provide a lasting benefit for the rest of the game for you. Some which have an instant benefit that you can use once and only once, and some which give you an additional end game scoring option. You can have a maximum of 3 of those cards over the course of the game. And then I think the other 2 special things are, one is building buildings inside the quarry, which give you the ability to improve the amount of resources you can get when you take one of those resources.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an engine-y thing plus scoring.
And then last but not least, there are statues. There's a god that allows you to place statues out on the board. You can place statues on the very sectors where people are taking dice, and when you do that, you're getting the benefits of you're getting free resources of various kinds when people take those dice. Or you can put these things directly into the quarry, or you can put them even into the temple itself. It's kind of interesting. Jennifer, you said that that your main objection to this is the amount of planning. Can you talk about that for a second? Because I think that's really where we need to go.
Yeah, because actually it was reply to Candace Harris's preview of it, which I would recommend everybody to read, by the way. It's a very good, very full description of how the game plays, and it's in the Board Game Geek section.
Yeah, check
of
the show
front
notes
page.
of the podcast. We'll have that included there.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Great. The planning comes because at any given time, a die is in a certain state. So, if as the wheel turns, then the dice change state, right? So your forbidden die, the next turn it's tainted, or your pure die, the next turn it's
Corrupted.
forbidden. If I recall correctly, the gray dice are never forbidden. Yeah.
They're always
Correct.
corrupted.
And they also don't correspond to a resource.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which is important. And so, you should maybe wait until the die that you need comes into a more favorable position. And so then you're going, well, okay, I'll wait for that die. Oh, well, what's a turn order? I mean, for a lot of people, it's going to be very interesting and very strategic. And for me, I like, and it's just me, like I said, again, people don't think, oh, she hates it or it's a bad game. It's a great game. I like playing the game that's in front of me.
Right.
And yeah.
Not the game that is eventually going to emerge.
Right. And so, I don't hate it or anything. And, it may just be too much exposure,
15 times in a couple
I
weeks.
feel like a robot now teaching the game. It's like, you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and boom, we're done.
Look, you're at the 15 play itch, all right? You're either going to get past that or you're going to fold. It's going to be one or the other.
So this is the point. One of the things I think Jennifer's talking about there is like, this is a point salad game. I think that's fair. You're getting points from all different areas of the board and the different actions. And part of your understanding of this game is like, how do these various God actions of these 6 things around the board, how do they work with each other? Yeah. And like how each time you play this game, you might get them to work with each other in different ways. And that can be really interesting. It can also be completely overwhelming when you're first learning this game. And I think also, if I'm understanding Jennifer correctly, that interaction is going to be pleasurable to some people and it's going to be annoying to others because it doesn't always feel completely straightforward how the different aspects of this game actually work with each other.
Yeah. So when it's your turn to go, you are going to choose a die and you're going to pull it over to your board. But it's not simply look at which sector you want to pull a die from and pull the die. If it was just that, then hey, no big deal. This is a pretty standard game. But the dice have different numbers on them. The dice are different colors. The dice are either in the clean side, in the what is the word for it, Jennifer?
Blessed
side.
It's pure.
The pure side or the tainted side, right? Well, here's the thing. You take these dice and you put them onto a scale on your board. And if you have an imbalance between tainted and pure, at the end of that round, at the end of every 4 dice that you've drawn, you're going to add up the values on each side of that scale. The person closest to 0 is going to be the new start player. Right.
And it's that part is interesting, and it's one of, it's a situation, particularly if you can put it on the pure side, you can say, well, I'm not going to play for play order this time, so I'm just going to be plus 11 pure, right?
Yeah, right.
That's fine. Or even maybe eating some victory points and being -2 or whatever. But it is, what am I trying to say? I'm sorry.
No.
It is a factor.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few reasons why it's good to go last in the game. Because at that last time, you sometimes can control, am I going to go first, second, third, or fourth next time?
Correct. Correct. Yeah, and the interesting thing is that if you end up with more pure dice points than you do tainted dice points, you may go late in the turn order, but there's no other penalty. But if you have more taint, there are actual negative victory points that are accruing for you. You're -1, -2, -3 victory points that can pile up, which is yet another calculation that you have to take into account. It's very, very interesting. Then the amount of, a lot of these games there are points that are scored during the game, and then there are end game scoring points, right? And the balance between those two is very much a factor in what kind of feeling the game has. But I think like Trey was, go ahead.
But I think though, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just had a thought about those in-game points.
Tell me.
And that is they're hidden. Now, I played the game so much, I guess it's kind of like through the ages, where I know what people are going for.
Yes.
And their hidden objectives.
Yes,
right?
they're not so hidden because if you're going to score any significant points, we're going to see what you're doing, right?
You have built 7 columns. I know what your card is. Yes.
That's what I did the last game I played. Yes. I had the column thing, and I was wailing on the columns, so no one had to guess that. But your point is right: is that if you can really see it, then why not have that exposed? Why have that be a hidden element? You and Trey both share a dislike for anything that requires memory or any kind of or hidden conditions. I think
the other problem is though,
I think it's two different
things about it.
Yeah, it's two different factors. I'm sorry, I was conflating two different things.
Yeah, but I think Jennifer just made the point that you can't really do anything about it. Like one of the aspects of this game is like the difference between dice drafting and like worker placement is like there's not really blocking in this game. Like there's some interactivity in terms of like what dice you grab, but you're not like if I take a certain die, I'm just making it a little bit harder for Tom to take another column action and to build his 7th column, right? Is that kind of what you're talking about here? Is like you can't do anything. Like I can see you going for columns, Tom. I can't stop you.
Right.
Well, unless go ahead.
Go ahead, Trey.
No, it's me. It's Tom. I was going to say that unless there's only one die in that area, right? There's 3 sections in each little sliver of the thing. One section is the pure dice, one section is the tainted dice, and one section is unavailable dice. These are dice that are just, you can't take them for anything. There's only one way to take them, which is doing an Osiris action. And an Osiris action essentially is
Anubis.
Anubis, yes, beg your pardon. Anubis, where you burn your scribes, your most valuable thing. Scribes are used to change dice, so they're tremendously great to have. You're going to burn scribes. You're going to basically take any die anywhere and do what you want to do with it. It's one of those things that I think that ideal play, you're never going to do that, but it's good to have the resources necessary to do that if you have a monster turn and you could be denied it, right?
Yeah, because I think that, in fact, because there's no passing in the game, I don't know if you guys realize that, but there is no action. There is no time in the game when you can just say, I'm not going to take an action.
That's
you
true.
must take an action.
And you must take it fully, right?
Pardon?
And you must take it fully. You must do the whatever action you choose. You have to do what it does.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the card action, though. You might be able to take fewer cards.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We can ask about that, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, because of that, you've got to have some other ways to do stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the Anubis action is a way to do stuff.
Yeah, it's a rule break.
So, go ahead.
No, it's a rule break.
So you're gonna I think you're gonna exactly in this game you have 16 actions. You're gonna take 16 turns in this game, and kind of the way they structure that is interesting. And like you said before, Jennifer, like maybe part of what is not fun for you is the planning in this, because you very much in this game are going to get to a certain point where you're like, I have 5 actions left in my game. Like, what are the things I need to do in order to stick my landing in terms of scoring? And like that can make for a very interesting game, or it can just be annoying and frustrating. One of the things Tom just talked about, like he was calling it an Osiris action, and I corrected him that it's an Anubis action. I talked to Ben a little bit, who played this game, and he was pointing out that like this was a source of frustration for him, where like in a sense the theme of the game, in a sense, kind of got in the way of understanding how all these different pieces work together, because like they've themed all these different things as god actions, which we're going to call this an Osiris action or a Anubis action or a Bast action or something like that, which actually is just like this layer of that keeps things from necessarily being understood. Like he was saying, like what I really wanted to do here is I need to take a temple action because I'm building a column in the temple, but that's like technically that's an Osiris action. I think I'm probably getting it wrong there, but that was a level of frustration for him. Is, you know, both like there's a lot of iconography you've got to learn here, and then you've got this layer of kind of like Egyptian names which don't actually describe what the thing is. Like as opposed to like if you're playing Agricola and you're plowing fields, like that's a plowing fields action. It's not a Verstürmerstadt action, you know, or something. There's not that extra layer of German something there.
That's a good point.
That was a source of. And so to me, like this game in the canon of these designers, there's aspects of this that feel a little more Trismegistus to me, and less Teotihuacan, because it has that kind of, here's a bunch of different things you can do that are pretty removed from necessarily like a logical, oh, I'm plowing fields, I'm getting corn, I'm feeding my people. Like there's some of that stuff here, but it's pretty obscured, and it feels like the theme is pretty pasted on here. There's a lot of it, but it's not especially understandable.
Yeah,
you're doing things and you're scoring points.
I'd like to say that so here's what I like about the game. Trismegistus, I did not care for, and part of it was that the theme made the game hard to understand. In that sense, this is similar, right? In that sense, the god action should just be renamed. Right, the god that ups your happiness, the god that ups your happiness. It should not be named after a god. It should be the festival action. You're creating a festival to get your people happy, right?
Or you're taking a happiness action. Like that's what everyone's going to call it when they're playing the game. It's like I'm taking the happiness action.
Sure,
right?
I guess what I'm doing is I'm giving it just a tiny bit of theme but not a theme that doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? But Trismegistus, my main complaint is that it was multiplayer solitaire, that there was so little interaction between players. I feel like with the dice in this game, I've found that there were a number of times when my die was taken before I could take it, and it forced me to really zig and do things that that were not my primary thing, and then fighting for turn order by balancing my dice at the end of the turn became very, very important.
Well, Tom, though, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go.
I was just going to say, but did they take your dice because they knew it was your dice? Or did it just coincidentally happen?
Oh, I didn't play with Paul. So, no, they didn't.
That happens all the time.
It coincidentally happened.
And that's very common. You'll be playing this game, you'll be looking at the die you want, and it's very likely to be taken right before it gets to you, which is, like, that's not that uncommon in these games. But I think Jennifer's point is it's probably because it's like the best die available at that time, and very rarely, and maybe it changes when you're at 15 plays, are you saying, I'm taking this die, this may be, less than ideal for me, but it wrecks Tom.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm missing.
Well, but we're still.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No, we're at the beginning of this game. right? You're not at the beginning of this game. The rest of everybody you're playing with is at the beginning of this game. It's going to take me 5 or 6 plays before I stop looking at what I'm trying to do and start looking at what the other players are trying to do, right? Because this is a complex clockwork. There are a lot of moving parts. And for me, so just as an example, if I want to get a lot, if I want to build statues, I need a lot of granite. How do I get a lot of granite? Well, I need to first up my ability to produce granite. So I have to build a building with a very high die in the quarry, and it has to be one on the that generates granite and ups my granite production, right? And
yeah,
then,
I want to say something about that.
please do.
Okay. I'm wondering if the quarry isn't a trap, because you build all this stuff to get your production up, but how many times are you really taking a production turn?
Yeah.
And is that a loss of tempo turn?
It might be, but my guess is that there's a quarry game, right? There probably is a quarry game in which taking 3 or 4 production actions to have all the resources you need to be taking massive actions each turn, building buildings, building statues, building that kind of stuff, and really maximizing that probably is a play.
I don't think so. And the reason I disagree with you,
Sure.
I respect your opinion, though. Every time you take a quarry action, you lose happiness. At 0 happiness, you can't take a quarry action.
Yep. Yeah. No.
So how are you gonna get in 16 turns? You're getting all of this production. You're doing all of this production, and you're keeping your happiness up.
Right. That's exactly what we're saying.
What you guys are talking about is sequencing, right? Like, I think we talk about a lot of games as being efficiency competitions. Like, that's a lot of board games, is like, how efficient are you with your actions? I think this, in addition, adds to it. Like, you need to do these things in a proper order. That doesn't mean now, and often you don't. And I think part of the game is discovering a lot of times the order that you need to do things. Like, do you build your columns in the temple before you build your buildings, or your buildings before your columns? Like, there's rewards for doing it one way or the other. Like, I agree with you, Jennifer, that like when you take a resource action, it feels like a huge tempo hit. But if you've gone to the quarry ahead of time so that you're getting the most out of that die, so that I'm getting, 4 resources rather than 2 when I take a production turn, then I'm starting to be more efficient in my sequencing. And I think like that's what this game is.
Yeah.
Is sequencing your actions and anticipating what am I going to be able to pull off that other players aren't going to deny me with these disappearing dice.
Yeah, I think that's true. So let's get to our sort of final overview. How do we feel about this game, Jennifer? I think you've already kind of said that. So why don't you go first? Your overall thumbs up, thumbs down, and why? Yeah,
I do need to play it with experienced players to create a final thing, right?
Yep.
But like I said, there are a couple of things that I'm leery of. I don't feel it may not be as interactive as I'd like. And the hidden objectives may feel arbitrary. By the way, I've gone through the decrees and they are not equal. They are not balanced.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Trey, what about you?
So that's a concern.
Yeah, I think I want to play this game some more. I suspect that this game, if people heavily invest into it, they will find it very rewarding and strategically deep. So in that sense, I think it is a good game ultimately for some medium to heavy Euro gamers that our podcast kind of talks to. I think though that it is a tough teach. I think there's a certain amount of kind of like design bloat that's going on here. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and then there's some fiddly exceptions stuff that's hard to take in on your first and second plays, but kind of like you'll get there with it. But it also I think this game probably like fails my like elegance test, where like of this kind of like perfect combination of mechanics and theme, this one's falling short from being like a classic. I think it's a good game. I don't think it's going to be making any top 20 list for us in the future.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna be the Merry Sunshine here. I'm really loving it. I'm really enjoying it so far. I love how many different levers there are. And so, for instance, I'm looking at these cards and I realize, okay, I'm currently losing the game. TREY is having a much better game than I am right now. So what if I up my population and then up my happiness so that I can get some of the more advanced cards, right? Because maybe I can draft a end-game scoring card that might flip the script so that even though TREY is winning in the points you get during the game, I might be able to catch him at the end of the game. So first I have to up my population, and then I have to make my population happier so that I can get those cards. There's so many different little things that you have to do in so many sequences. I think TREY, you were dead on right about that give you that option. I think what Jennifer just said about the quarry maybe being a trap is kind of blowing my mind because I was thinking next time I'm going heavy quarry. I think that's the way to go.
Right.
So right.
I want to watch it. I want to be there.
Yeah. Because I feel like, from the last play, I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, I think I might be able to do that. But 15 plays in, you think maybe you can't. So it is a game that is activating my game brain very heavily. I'm very into it, and I'm looking forward to playing it a lot more. And I really do think what all of us said is that this is one of those games that probably sings when everybody has a pretty firm grasp of it, and then we start playing the player and not just playing the game.
That's why I want to withhold judgment. One thing I do want to tell everybody, currently it's not available on Tabletopia. I was very fortunate that Board and Dice gave me a private link, and that's how we're playing. They told me they plan to make it public on Tabletopia. They also are expecting a board game arena implementation.
Yes.
Which I look forward to.
Very much, yeah.
That will improve things dramatically.
And hopefully it'll be coming out, the Tabletopia beta has been troubling for us. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's tough. It is coming out this week, ladies and gentlemen. If it sounds interesting to you, I suggest that you seek it out. I'm really quite blown away by it, and I'm way into it. But my other two co-hosts have criticisms and concerns. Please weigh those in there as well. That is Tekhenu, Obelisk of the Sun, coming out next week.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.